Hi everyone, delonewolf here, and welcome back to the Sunday recap, my weekly vlog where I talk a little bit about my last week in games. And as always, we'll start with EVE Online, and I must say it's been a pretty amazing week in EVE Online. I spent quite a bit of time in game, and there were quite a few very special events that were happening. First of all, of course, the fall of Nyanja. So I went over there on the first day when Edencom and the pro-Triglavian forces felt like they were decently balanced. You had several fleets bouncing around, running all the sites as quickly as possible. I also managed to get some footage from that. It's actually pretty cool. I'm not sure if I'll get to ever use that footage outside of, for instance, this Sunday recap, but it's pretty impressive to see how once the player base gets excited for something, they can really rally in pretty big numbers. You get this rush on that content, and that does create that side interaction as well, with criminals showing up, people trying to scoop loot that's not theirs, and then of course you get that PvP that comes from that. It's all pretty damn cool, and it was very fun to witness. While I was out of the system, of course, as we all know by now, the Imperium chose the Triglavian side, presumably to disrupt the easy flow of ships and materials for their opponents, and thus, in pretty short order, they managed to tip the scales in favor of the Triglavians, who have now conquered the system that basically follows some nullsec rules when it comes to Concord intervention, and that, of course, has a pretty big impact on the game in general, because it has ripped the two largest trade hubs, Mar and Jita, apart when they were basically, I think, the two closest. They're now the two furthest trade hubs from each other, and that could also have a pretty big impact on our activities in Dital itself. We'll have to see how things evolve before we make choices on that front. So as I explored that first day of Nyanja, I also took the opportunity to explore a little bit more when it comes to some of the other old invasion sites. So I went to an Edencom fortress, and I also went to a system that was conquered a pretty long time ago by the Triglavians, just to see how things have evolved there. And well, it's not a Dyson sphere is basically the first feeling. I mean, it's pretty impressive, and they're definitely doing stuff in these systems, but it is not to a scale that we've never seen before, which also pulls back that Triglavian technological advantage. Basically, it's not like they're, I mean, if they were able to build a Dyson sphere, basically I would feel like the rest of K-Space would never had any chance against their technological superiority, but it's basically some sort of massive extractor or some device that puts a beam on the star, and it's definitely manipulating that star to a crazy scale, but it is not a Dyson sphere, so it is something that perhaps is not that far off from the rest of the technology in New Eden that Edencom, for instance, would have access to. So that definitely pulled that back a little bit. In the Edencom fortress, I saw those pretty impressive Edencom turrets, basically, like massive turrets actually, that were on the gates, and then they also put some station onto the star to like keep an eye on it and to perhaps monitor how all the blue stars are now changing because of what the Triglavians are doing. My speculation is heading towards that eventually they'll shut down the gates in those systems, and that they'll have their own gate system to connect their system amongst one another, perhaps through like a central core that'll lie in the abyss. We don't know, of course, that's pure speculation, but that could be very cool, of course, lore-wise, as things evolve. This is definitely still a first phase, but it was pretty interesting to revisit those systems. I had to be extra careful when it comes to Triglavian ones, of course. I'm fully neutral, so Edencom is cool with me, but the Triglavians, they try to shoot me as soon as they spot me. But overall, there was some like real exploration happening last week, which was pretty damn cool. I of course also did some gameplay exploration, took the Turtle Hill out for some more sites. I actually got a couple of good drops out of that as well. And then on one of my exploration sites, this really how it happened. I was just running around my normal route, and then all of a sudden the space darkened, everything got that blue tint as the Dital was hit by that first metaliminal storm, an electrical one, which also spawned lots of extra relic sites, including the nullsec specific relic sites. So I do think one of my plans is going to be to prepare an Astero very specifically to hunt for border systems that have storms that are bleeding out there, so that we can take advantage of that extra loot that potentially comes there. It can be highly valuable, so I do think it's worth it to build a quick ship for that. And of course, this has effects on the system. So for instance, the electrical one, no cloaking, which can be a bit of a problem, but in high sec, I don't think it's that big of a deal. And then, one resistance is weaker. You get some other aspects, but it's not like very bad or very good. It just changes things around a little bit, and you need to adapt to basically the presence of that storm. So it makes things a little bit more random and probably a little bit more interactive potentially as well. We'll see how that evolves, but we were hit right off the bat, and that was definitely very cool to witness. Next to all of that exploration, I of course also kept up with the blueprint copy business, and I actually ran the Nyarja Gauntlet in order to get to Cheetah, so I did still take that shorter route. As I've said, I feel like it will always still be doable as long as the Traglevens don't shut down the gates. Something like an interceptor will do the job pretty damn easily. So BPCs, faction pieces, things like that will still very easily find their way to Cheetah for the biggest market, the quickest turnover. But it is other stuff, of course, more bulky stuff that we'll have to make a choice with. PI, compressed ores, minerals, stuff that we produce, even munitions, ships and things like that take something far bigger in cargo than an interceptor, and so that I think we'll try to sell locally, or whichever close trade hub starts to grow in size, if that's eventually what happens. Of course, that's also something that we obviously have to keep a close eye on and try to gather as much information on it as possible. But that's all part of the sandbox, so I really do enjoy the fact that this can change like this, and that we need to now adapt, see what the most optimal way of doing business around Dital is going to be. So that's definitely something that we will try out as well as things evolve. But as I've said, right now we're still in that massive invasion storyline, and it really feels like this is not the end by a long shot, that everything still has to basically resolve itself in these conquered systems, and I have no idea what CCP is planning, but I definitely look forward to that, and then look forward to changing my ways in and around Dital to adapt to the new reality once everything actually comes to its resolution, which it could be pretty soon. It could also be that the rest of the year will all be dominated by these Triglavian invasions and that storyline. Who knows how far CCP is going to take it. Next up, I do want to talk a little bit about Path of Exile, because I have been playing that game a little bit more as well. Nothing too major, definitely not pushing hard, but I'm trying some other abilities out basically. I'm exploring some other potentially cool abilities just to try and have some more fun and stay in touch with the game. Although I must also say that there's no real motivation to push hard or anything like that, because of course we received the news that this league mechanic will not find its way into the base game. I think especially some softcore players like myself agree that it looked like it was a little bit too powerful, and that GGG agrees with that. I know that for solo self-found hardcore players, this is actually a very big boon, because it basically gives them that path to make their character work pretty much no matter what. I personally do watch Queen69 stream quite a little bit, and I saw him like really blow through all the content and succeed with the character that he had planned very much beforehand. But outside of the solo self-found hardcore scene, I do think it's considered to be a little bit too powerful, but that also saps your desire to invest more time into the league, especially to fully master that league mechanic or anything like that. I mean, I almost never get to the point where I try to fully master a league mechanic, but here it's like, okay, what are we going to do? Definitely not putting too much time into Path of Exile. It's more about what's coming next at this point already, and so for that sake, I'm basically trying to see, should I again go with the necromancer, which I also always do, or should I explore some other abilities that may be fun to do, try to build up a character where I can see a path towards it being really powerful and able to get to like late game content or stuff like that, focusing on certain mechanics. At the moment, for instance, I'm actually working on a character that focuses very heavily on block, on defenses, and then does automatic counterattacks and things like that. I've seen my brother make a character like that, and I'm kind of inspired to try it myself. So far it's actually pretty fun, and he's pretty tanky. He can survive quite a little bit, so it's pretty nice to explore some of these other ways to play Path of Exile. But yeah, that league mechanic for Harvest is not coming to the main game, and so all I'm doing is exploring a little bit more at this one, trying to see if I'm maybe inspired for a different start on the next league. But that's where my horizon is at the moment, just looking for when's the league ending, when's the new one starting, and then I might jump in for some more hardcore Path of Exile. At the moment, that's definitely not in the books, just for fun, a little bit here and there, and that's all I can really manage. So basically that was my last week in games, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.